Wrestling has always thrived on larger-than-life heroes, the kind of figures fans can cheer for, admire, and follow through thick and thin. But there's another side to the story, one that's often far more entertaining, far more dangerous, and far more unpredictable. That side is the heel, the villain of professional wrestling. And when a heel is so convincing, so despicable, and so downright hateful, they can blur the line between fiction and reality. The result? Fans crossing the line, leaving their seats and trying to physically attack the very performers they came to see. Today, we're diving into 10 wrestling heels so good fans attacked them, a journey through some of the most outrageous moments in wrestling history where the heat got so real that audiences just couldn't sit still. These weren't just bad guys playing a role. They were masters of their craft, generating genuine anger and emotional reactions so powerful that fans simply snapped. The psychology of wrestling tells us something important here. Fans love to suspend disbelief. They know deep down it's entertainment, but in the heat of the moment, the passion takes over. A well-executed heel can convince an arena full of people that they truly are the enemy. And when that happens, the reaction goes far beyond boos and chants. It escalates into chaos. What makes this list fascinating isn't just the danger involved, but the skill. Not every villain can pull this off. It takes charisma, timing, and the ability to draw raw emotions from a crowd. From legends of the territory days to modern WWE stars, these heels elevated their craft to the point where fans didn't just hate them in the ring, they hated them in real life. Before we dive into the countdown, consider this. Wrestling history is full of incredible baby faces, the heroes we cheer. But the true measure of greatness often comes from the villains they stood against. And when a heel becomes too good at their job, the arena becomes more than a performance space. It becomes a powder keg. This list isn't just about dangerous encounters. It's about storytelling at its highest level. It's about moments where the audience was so lost in the drama that they threw away the rule book, crossing from spectator to participant. And while these incidents were risky, even terrifying, they also proved one undeniable truth. Wrestling is at its most powerful when it feels real. So buckle up, because we're about to relive 10 shocking cases where wrestling villains pushed fans beyond their breaking point. These are the moments that blurred fiction and reality, where the art of wrestling storytelling spilled into chaos. And we're starting with one of the most notorious heat magnets of all time. When it comes to heels who blurred the line between performance and reality, few names stand taller, or more infamous, than the Iron Sheik. In the 1980s, at the height of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Middle East, the Iron Sheik wasn't just a character, he was a symbol. His villainous persona tapped directly into the fears and frustrations of the time, and fans absolutely hated him for it. The Iron Sheik strutted to the ring waving the Iranian flag, shouting in broken English about America's weakness and berating fans with venomous insults. For audiences living through the Iranian hostage crisis and international unrest, this wasn't just a storyline. It felt personal. And that's what made the Sheik one of the most effective villains in wrestling history. At Madison Square Garden, during one of his most infamous matches, things escalated beyond control. As Sheik taunted the crowd and mocked America, fans erupted in rage. But it didn't stop at boos. Accounts from that night reveal fans hurling garbage, coins, and even trying to climb the barricades just to get their hands on him. Security had to intervene multiple times as people physically tried to storm the ring. The Iron Sheik was so despised, so convincing as a villain, that audiences genuinely wanted to hurt him. But here's the thing. Sheik thrived on it. Unlike some who may have backed down, he leaned into the hatred. He'd taunt harder, spit at the ground, and double down on his anti-American rhetoric. This only made fans angrier, creating an energy so volatile that WWE officials often feared for his safety. At one show, he was even stabbed with a concealed weapon by a fan who had jumped the guardrail. Proof that the line between character and reality had completely vanished. From a psychological standpoint, the Iron Sheik represents the ultimate heel archetype. He didn't need to rely on flashy moves or cheap tricks. His presence alone was enough to draw nuclear heat. The fact that he embodied a real-world enemy during a politically charged time made him the kind of villain people didn't just boo. They despised him on a human level. What's even more fascinating is how Sheik used that hatred to elevate his opponents. When Hulk Hogan beat him for the WWE Championship in 1984, it wasn't just a wrestling win. It was portrayed as America triumphing over its enemy. That single match launched Hogan into superstardom, proving that the greatest heroes are defined by the villains they conquer. The Iron Sheik's career is a reminder that wrestling's power lies in emotion. He knew exactly what buttons to push, and fans couldn't help but react. Whether it was throwing objects, storming the barricades, or trying to physically attack him, audiences made it clear. The Iron Sheik wasn't just a heel, he was the enemy. And if you thought that was intense, wait until you hear about the next heel. A man who didn't just get attacked, but almost caused riots wherever he went. Few heels in wrestling history mastered the art of provocation quite like Rowdy Roddy Piper. In the 1980s, when wrestling was exploding into the mainstream, thanks to Hulk Hogan and the rock and wrestling era, Piper was the perfect antagonist. He wasn't the biggest, the strongest, or the flashiest. But Piper had one weapon more dangerous than any punch or kick: his mouth. Through his infamous Piper's Pit segments, he built a reputation as one of the most hated talkers in wrestling history. He mocked fans, insulted their hometowns, and most famously, targeted his rivals with words so sharp they felt like daggers. And because Piper delivered his promos with such conviction, many fans genuinely believed he was as arrogant and cruel as the character he played. One of the most infamous moments came when Piper smashed a coconut over Jimmy Snuka's head during a Piper's Pit segment. To the TV audience, it was shocking television. But in the arenas, Piper's actions ignited chaos. Fans weren't just booing, they were screaming for his blood. The scene blurred the lines between storyline and reality to such a degree that fans often tried to jump the guardrails, wanting to fight him themselves. Live events were even more volatile. Piper was known for riling up crowds to the point where fans would throw food, drinks, and even bottles at him as he made his way to and from the ring. In some territories, he needed police escorts because angry fans had started waiting outside the arenas to attack him after shows. In one incident, Piper reportedly had to fight his way through a crowd just to get to his car, proving that the heat he drew wasn't confined to the ring. The brilliance of Piper's heel work lay in his unpredictability. Fans never knew what he was going to say or do next. He had a knack for finding exactly what a crowd was sensitive about, whether it was their local hero, their culture, or their pride, and poking at it until it boiled over. That's why audiences reacted so viscerally. Piper wasn't just playing a bad guy, he was a mirror reflecting fans' frustrations and insecurities back at them, and they hated him for it. And yet, despite the chaos he caused, Piper's success as a heel can't be overstated. His feuds with Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Snuka, and later countless others were legendary precisely because of the raw emotion he inspired. Fans didn't just want to see him lose, they wanted to see him punished. That's the ultimate goal of a heel, to make the crowd invest so deeply that they'll pay money, scream their lungs out, and even risk getting involved just to see justice served. Roddy Piper wasn't just booed, he was attacked, hated, and feared. And in the world of wrestling, that made him one of the most successful heels of all time. But Piper wasn't alone, because the next heel on our list didn't just use words. He used violence so brutal that fans couldn't sit idly by. If there's one man who perfected the art of exploiting real-world tensions to draw nuclear-level heat, it was the Iron Sheik. Wrestling has always thrived on larger-than-life villains, but in the 1980s, when political tensions between the United States and Iran were boiling hot, the Iron Sheik stepped into the ring as the ultimate foreign menace. And the fans hated him for it, so much so that many didn't stop at just booing. They wanted to attack. Sheik's character was brilliantly simple yet devastatingly effective. Draped in Iranian flags, boasting about his homeland, and constantly mocking the United States, he represented everything the patriotic American fan base despised. Add in his thick accent, his bombastic arrogance, and his infamous pointy boots, and you had a man who instantly became the most reviled heel in the business. His feud with Hulk Hogan in 1984 is the stuff of legend. Sheik had just won the WWF Championship, and when Hogan stepped in to challenge him, the stakes were more than just about wrestling gold. It was America versus Iran, hero versus villain, freedom versus oppression, at least in the eyes of the fans. When Hogan defeated Sheik and began the Hulkamania era, the arena nearly exploded. But while Hogan's win made history, the lead-up to those matches showed just how hated Sheik truly was. Fans spat at him, hurled garbage, and screamed death threats as he strutted to the ring waving the Iranian flag. There were countless live events where Sheik had to be physically escorted to the back by police or security guards. Fans jumped the guardrails, charging at him in blind rage, convinced that he wasn't just playing a character, but was truly their enemy. In fact, Sheik once admitted that he carried a concealed weapon with him during road trips, not as a prop, but as a precaution, because he feared for his life on multiple occasions. That level of heat is nearly unheard of in today's wrestling world. But what made Sheik even more effective was his in-ring style. He wasn't just about cheap heat. He was a legitimate grappler, an Olympic-level wrestler who could stretch opponents in painful holds. His signature camel clutch wasn't just a finishing move, it looked excruciating, and fans believed he was torturing their heroes. Every time he locked it in, the boos became deafening, and the crowd's hatred intensified. And let's not forget his infamous interviews. With broken English but fiery delivery, Sheik would rant about Iran #1, USA #0. The crowd didn't just laugh, they boiled with anger. His promos were short, chaotic, and filled with raw emotion, making them unforgettable. The Iron Sheik wasn't just a wrestling villain. He became a cultural figure, a symbol of everything fans thought they despised. His ability to blur the lines between fiction and reality made him one of the most dangerous heels in history. Fans didn't just boo him. They wanted to fight him, hurt him, even erase him from the sport. That level of hate is rare, but the next heel on our list took it even further by mixing arrogance with violence, creating chaos that fans simply couldn't ignore. Few heels in wrestling history have blended charisma, sharp wit, and outright disrespect the way Rowdy Roddy Piper did. While many villains relied on brute force or foreign menace to stir hatred, Piper weaponized words. His mouth was his deadliest tool, and it made fans so furious that many tried to leap the rail just to shut him up. Piper rose to prominence in the early 1980s, a time when WWF was exploding into mainstream culture. While Hulk Hogan was being built up as the all-American hero, Piper became the loud, unapologetic villain standing in his way. He didn't just insult Hogan, he insulted the fans, their intelligence, and even entire cultural groups. Every promo he cut was like a dagger aimed straight at the heart of the audience's pride. One of Piper's most infamous segments took place during his Piper's Pit talk show. This wasn't your standard backstage promo. This was Piper's playground where he humiliated guests and mocked fan favorites to their faces. Perhaps the most notorious moment came when he smashed a coconut over Jimmy Superfly Snuka's head. That wasn't just an angle. It was pure, raw chaos. Fans in the arena that night nearly rioted. Many genuinely believed Piper had crossed a line and tried to storm the set, forcing security to intervene. But Piper's heel work wasn't just about shock value. He had a unique ability to make people feel. He understood crowd psychology better than most, and he knew exactly which buttons to press. He'd cut promos that felt so personal, so insulting, that fans didn't see him as a performer anymore. They saw him as a genuine enemy. In that era, with kayfabe still strong, Piper blurred the line between reality and performance perfectly. His rivalry with Hulk Hogan reached its peak when it helped set the stage for the very first WrestleMania in 1985. Piper teamed with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff to face Hogan and Mr. T in the main event. Fans were so emotionally invested that it wasn't just about Hogan winning. It was about Piper finally getting his comeuppance. Piper played the role so well that fans were legitimately fearful he might ruin Hogan's big moment, and that fear created nuclear levels of heat. What made Piper especially dangerous in the eyes of fans was his unpredictability. You never knew what he was going to say or do next. One week he might insult the fans' hometown. The next he might humiliate a beloved babyface. That unpredictability kept audiences on edge. And it also made some fans snap. Piper was attacked multiple times during his career, both in and out of the ring, by people who simply couldn't separate the man from the character. But here's the genius of Piper. While fans hated him passionately, they also couldn't look away. His energy, his wild eyes, his erratic behavior, he was captivating. He was the kind of villain you loved to hate, which is why he remains one of the most iconic heels in wrestling history. And if you think Piper's antics were wild, wait until you hear about the next heel, whose violent reputation and out-of-control chaos pushed fans into outright fear. Few wrestlers embodied villain status as perfectly as the Iron Sheik. In the early 1980s, global politics were tense. The Cold War was still raging, and the Iranian hostage crisis was fresh in American minds. Vince McMahon and WWF capitalized on those real-world emotions by pushing Iron Sheik as the ultimate foreign menace, and boy, did it work. From the second his entrance music hit and he waved the Iranian flag, crowds were already frothing with anger. He would shout curses in Persian, spit at fans, and proudly proclaim that America was weak compared to his homeland. Unlike many cartoonish foreign heels before him, Sheik's persona was believable. He was a legitimate former Olympic wrestler from Iran, which gave him credibility. When he screamed, "Iran #1, USA Haqf 2," while pretending to spit on the ground, fans took it as a direct insult to their country. It didn't take long before fans crossed the line from booing to actual aggression. At house shows, fans would throw trash, bottles, and even food at him before he even reached the ring. Security had to surround him during entrances because angry spectators would try to climb the barricades to attack him. The Iron Sheik wasn't just hated, he was despised with a level of venom rarely seen in pro wrestling. One of his most infamous moments came in 1983 when he ended Bob Backlund's incredible 6-year WWF Championship reign. Backlund was beloved as a clean-cut, all-American hero, so when the Sheik won the title, fans were outraged. In some cities, riots nearly broke out. Many older fans still recall being in the building that night, describing the energy as dangerous, because people weren't just angry. They were ready to fight. The Sheik's feud with Hulk Hogan only intensified matters. When Hogan defeated him in 1984 to win his first WWF championship, it sparked the birth of Hulkamania. But before that match, fans were so terrified that Sheik might actually retain the title that they prepared themselves for chaos. Hogan's victory wasn't just a title change, it was billed as America triumphing over a hated enemy. Without the Iron Sheik, Hulkamania might never have caught fire the way it did. Outside of championships, Sheik's interviews were another source of rage. His thick accent, constant insults toward American culture, and outrageous threats blurred the lines of kayfabe. He'd talk about breaking opponents' backs and making them humble. To American fans, still deeply patriotic in that era, this wasn't just wrestling, it was personal. The intensity of fan hatred often put Sheik in real danger. At multiple events, fans attempted to stab or attack him, forcing WWF to increase security measures. In one incident, a fan actually slashed his leg with a knife while he was heading back to the locker room. That's how much fans believed the character and wanted to hurt him. The Iron Sheik was more than a villain. He was a lightning rod for the raw emotions of an entire generation. His ability to generate that kind of heat, the kind that made people genuinely furious, cements him as one of the most hated and effective heels in history. And yet, as hated as Sheik was, the next heel on our list took things even further, pushing fans from anger into sheer panic, making them believe that he wasn't just a villain, but an unstoppable monster. If you ask hardcore fans of the Territory days who the most terrifying heel was, the name Bruiser Brody almost always comes up. Unlike some heels who relied on gimmicks or cheap insults, Brody's style was simple: chaos, violence, and an aura that made him feel completely unhinged. Fans didn't just boo him, they genuinely believed he was dangerous, and that belief often pushed them to try stopping him themselves. Bruiser Brody was a mountain of a man, standing 6'8", with wild, bushy hair and piercing eyes. The moment his theme music ended and he charged into the ring swinging a heavy steel chain above his head, fans already knew trouble was coming. That chain wasn't just for show either. Brody would whip it against the ring posts, smash it into the canvas, and even scare fans by swinging it near the barricades. Children cried. Adults recoiled. Some fans swore he looked like he was possessed. Inside the ring, his style was just as brutal. Brody didn't wrestle like a choreographed entertainer. He fought like an out-of-control street brawler. His matches often spilled into the crowd, where he would toss chairs, slam opponents into fans' laps, and blur the line between fiction and reality. Because wrestling at the time still protected kayfabe, fans didn't know what was real and what wasn't. All they knew was that this giant man was causing chaos, and someone had to stop him. And many tried. During his legendary feuds in Texas and Puerto Rico, fans would storm the ring or throw bottles to try to defend their hometown heroes. Security teams often struggled to contain the audience whenever Brody wrestled. In one infamous match, when he bloodied a beloved local star in Puerto Rico, fans nearly rioted. Wrestlers had to form a human shield around him just so he could leave the arena alive. What made Brody especially frightening was his commitment to the role. He rarely broke character in public. If fans saw him on the street, he still carried himself like a wild man, glaring and refusing to take pictures. This only added to the myth that he wasn't playing a heel. He was a heel. Bruiser Brody's heel persona was so convincing that even other wrestlers were uneasy around him. His refusal to follow strict scripts and his tendency to improvise violent spots made matches unpredictable. While that was frustrating for some promoters, fans loved it because it felt real. They were witnessing something raw, unscripted, and potentially dangerous, and that energy made arenas electric. But with that realism came true risk. Brody's matches often ended with fans trying to attack him out of fear or anger. Some would throw punches, others tried climbing the barricade, and security had to be doubled whenever he was booked. He wasn't just booed like a modern heel. He was despised and feared on a primal level. In many ways, Bruiser Brody pioneered the monster heel archetype. He wasn't foreign, he wasn't hiding behind a manager, and he didn't need flashy promos. His entire gimmick was simple: be so terrifying and unpredictable that fans couldn't separate the man from the myth. And as brutal as Brody was, our next entry proves that sometimes it isn't wild chaos that enrages fans the most. It's when a heel manipulates their emotions with cunning mind games, making them feel powerless to stop the evil unfolding before their eyes. If you enjoyed this countdown of the most hated heels in wrestling history, don't stop here, because the next video will blow your mind even more. Imagine finding out the shocking real reasons why some of your favorite WWE legends walked away from the business forever. Click right here on your screen, and trust me, you won't believe number 3 on that list. Also, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss out on wrestling's darkest secrets. What do you think? Which heel made you so angry you wanted to jump the barricade yourself? Drop your pick in the comments below. Let's see who gets the most votes.